Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and today I want to show you how to work the low front ridge around the perimeter of a square. I'm using a small sample from another design called the Celtic Mandala Throw. And let me just show you, first of all, before we get started on this, I'm going to mark each of the chain 2 corners in my sample with a stitch marker. This is kind of important. It is an optional thing, but this will help you to identify where the chain 2 corners are after we work the first round of this stitch. So let me go ahead and mark every corner carefully. And you can use anything for this. If you don't have little stitch markers like this handy, you can just use a contrasting piece of yarn and just tie it to that, just loosely, of course, tie it to the corners, and that should suffice. Okay, after I've slip stitched to finish this previous round, I'm going to actually work slip stitches to work my way to the corner of this project, just like this. I'm going to chain 1. Okay, now I'm going to turn 90 degrees. I'm going to completely skip this chain 2 space. I will be coming back to it later. Now also keep in mind that patterns are written in various ways, and there might be a different way to start this round depending on the pattern. But let's go ahead and go forward with this. So now what we're going to do is work only in the front loops of the stitches, and we're going to work a slip stitch just like that. So we're going to work this all the way across, working only in the front loops. Slip stitch, slip stitch. So let's go ahead and work that all the way to the next corner. Okay, I've worked slip stitches all the way across. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip this corner entirely, and let's just go ahead and pull that towards the back, and then I'm going to go to my next stitch, which is right here, and we're just going to do a slip stitch there. So here you go, the corner is marked back here, so we're just going to work these slip stitches around to the next corner. After working those all the way across, let's show you what you have at this point. We started down here, we've come up, turned the corner, we've come across, we have another corner, so let's make sure that we hold this back, and we're just going to start slip stitching. Again, we're still just working in the front loop only. Slip stitch all the way across this row. And just notice that as we do this, it is going to curve in a little bit, but that's quite all right. This is just the first row of this stitch. So go ahead and do this to the next corner. And for the last time, go ahead and round the next corner. I guess pulling this back so that that chain 2 space does not get worked in on this round. And please don't worry about this. The stitch count for this particular stitch is really based in what you do for the second row. So this row, or round in this case, doesn't really matter so much on the stitch count. Okay, I know that sounds odd to say, but that's just the way the stitches worked. It's a 2 stitch row or round, and the second round or row, depending on how it is worked, is definitely the most critical. Okay, so now this gets a little bit tricky. We're going to be working over some of these, there we go, over these other stitches, but you should be able to work them just fine. Okay, and then so that brings us to the chain 1 space right here. We don't want to get that confused with the chain 2 space, which this is marked in. So let's just go ahead and to that chain 1 space and do a slip stitch. Okay, then we're going to turn. Now there are different ways in which the patterns can be written. We can work a chain 2 space here, but I'm going to go ahead and start working in the remaining stitch only. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit tricky where those slip stitches were worked, but I'm going to go ahead and try to work that with you. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to work in the remaining stitch. You'll see this more clearly once we get past these slip stitches, but I just want to make sure that I represent them correctly. Okay. Okay, so now we're back to working where the stitches were. Okay, so we're just working single crochets and the remaining loops. Okay, so when you are working the pattern, you just want to make sure that, especially after you work this first row, that you have the number of stitches that you need across. And see, this is going to be, I believe, 20 stitches. Okay, so you may not understand where I am stitching exactly. Here is the slip stitch that we worked. And here is the double crochets, or these are actually post stitches, but they look like double crochets. And the first loop, we worked this slip stitch, and this is the back loop, which is now facing us, so it is the front loop, but it was the back loop as we worked across that row. So I hope you can see this. This is definitely an intermediate level crochet stitch, but I do believe with all my heart that confident beginners who want to learn something new and aren't afraid of making mistakes and getting a little messy can certainly do this. Okay, now we've worked across all the stitches. Now we've come to the chain 2 space. You can leave that in there if you'd wish. And what we're going to do, where that marker has marked, we're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, and then another single crochet, making it a single crochet corner. Okay, after you've worked that, you can remove the stitch. Okay, now we're working, turn 90 degrees, and we're working across another side, and this is basically what you're going to do all the way around. We're just going to work in that remaining loop. Okay, you see the stitch, and that remaining loop is right there. I know this is difficult to see if you are a beginner, but if you've worked these post stitches and you're not afraid of a little challenge, I know this has hung some people up, and rightfully so. It is an intermediate stitch, just to clarify, but I'm hoping that this video will just help to clarify this up, clarify it just a bit more. Okay. So after working those single crochets all the way across, we come to the next stitch marker, and we again work a corner there, which is a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet in that corner. We can remove that stitch marker there, and we're going to work this all the way around again to this stitch marker, and I will show you the join at the end over here. So after working those last stitches across that last side, we're going to go ahead and make our corner in that space where the stitch marker is. Single crochet, chain 2, and another single crochet. Let's go ahead and remove the marker since we no longer need it to help us. Okay, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to that very first single crochet of the round, and let's turn to see what we have produced. So now you can see the last round that we just worked here, and more importantly, this lovely little elevated texturized border. This works really nice to frame and feature and to separate various stitches that you may have in your designs. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you enjoyed this quick video tutorial on working the low front ridge around the square. And if you did, please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and please hit that little thumbs up. And if you hit that notification bell, you will get notifications from this channel. And you don't want to miss out on some of the things that I have coming your way, I promise, to keep it fun and exciting and hopefully very informative and clear. God bless. Bye-bye.